Online students, please confirm that I am audible. Online students, वो मैं लगा लूँगा. Online students, please confirm by typing yes if I am audible. Thank you. Hello friends, please shut your eyes for a moment. So, I hope you had a good weekend, as good as a weekend as a UPSC aspirant can have. Let us begin with a quick recap. So, where is the mic? Yes. Pass it to the last person in the row. And please tell me, what did we discuss in the last lecture?
Last class we started with anti-positivism.
Yes.
And in this, basically, starting from Weber, it was argued that the scientific method is basically not the correct method to apply to sociological research because man is basically a social being and man is affected by, like, he reacts in a different way to external stimuli, and so he is not, like, we cannot say he's objective enough.
All right. Very aptly put. Please pass on the mic to somebody. Yes. So tell me, we used an illustration of suicide studies from a positivist and anti-positivist perspective. Can you elaborate slightly on those? Sorry? Okay, pass on the mic then. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Please tell me, illustrate the difference between positivist and anti-positivist methods.
Sir, positivists were more of scientific thought, and anti-positivists were more of.
Tell me using the example of suicide studies from the two perspectives.
The suicide studies were conducted by Durkheim, who was a scientific sociologist.
All right.
And
so how did he conduct his study? What was scientific about it?
So he conducted the studies by collecting various data from government records.
Yes.
And he came to a conclusion that people tend to suicide more.
Yes.
Who have low social integration.
Absolutely. Thank you. Please pass on the mic. Yes. So tell me, who conducted the study of suicide from an anti-positivist perspective?
Dickinson.
Very good. And what was his thought?
Sir, he was non-positivist, sir.
Yes.
So, sir, he did not use scientific method.
Yes. How did he, what did he say? How should we study suicide? Pass on the mic. If it doesn't work, just tap the mic here. That's simple. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well summarized. Please pass on the mic. What else we discussed after this?
We then discuss the problems which are in the sociology while conducting research.
Yes. Name any one.
First is absence of closed field, closed lab experiment. In sociology, we have field experiments which are very subjective in nature and vary according person to person and society.
We don't really say that they are subjective in nature, but there are problems in conducting field experiments.
Yes, sir, because
And it is near impossible to fit entire societies or communities in labs.
no, sir, it is not possible. That's why sociology has field experiments.
ठीक है. Fine. Thank you. Please pass it on. Yes.
After that, we have studied about problem sciences, we have generalized the units to based on that. But then we also did not have any generalized like units to measuring.
Very good. Please pass on the mic.
Sir, then we talked about, then there is a problem.
Tap more. Yes. Pass on the mic to the person in front of you. Yes. What else we discussed? We have spoken about that. Okay. Yes. So please go ahead. What kind of ethical dilemmas one would face? Whether the yes. Yes. Chalega. Pass on the mic to the person in front of you. What else?
Next, we studied about objectivity.
What is objectivity?
In natural sciences, objectivity is possible because the results are same, not biased. What the structure is. While in sociology, it depends on the investigator. Means what the race of the investigator, his religion or his region, creed, and
Okay, it's just that we have not yet discussed the various perspectives or viewpoints on this question of objectivity. We'll be doing that today. Yeah, give me a textbook kind of definition of objectivity.
so objectivity means that the conclusion of a given experiment does not depend on the race, the religion, or caste, or any other.
All right. Said who? Who gave this definition?
Robert.
मित्र है आपका? Robert Bierstedt. Bierstedt. If in fact it will work if you don't remember the first names, but you can only write only the surname. You can't write like Robert, you know. ठीक है? ठीक है. Good. Pass it on. Anyone? You pick.
So, then we talk about fact, value, and objectivity.
Yes.
In this, facts are empirically verifiable data, which remain same for all the observers.
Yes.
Then we talk about values. The values are subjected to bias, prejudices of the person, and
Okay.
values are those values are like those guidelines which tell how this society. So values are those guidelines to the society which tell how the individual should act.
All right. All right. Good. Good. Pass it on. Did we end there? Yes, sir. So tell me about the development of sociology in USA. You had to revise the whole week syllabus on the weekend anyways. Tell me.
I remember the Chicago school.
Okay, tell us whatever you know about it.
It helped to develop the understanding of the sociology, like
Name some Chicago school scholars. No prompting, guys. Please revise for your own sake, beta. Pass on the mic. Yes, tell us about the Chicago school.
The Chicago school was center of sociology in US because of various reasons. It was a point of urbanization in US.
Yes.
Chicago has seen a lot of migration from different parts of the country, which increased the social ills in the particular area. So it
Yes.
was considered the best place for the sociological experiment.
Good. And name some scholars associated with the school.
And I don't remember scholars.
Please try. Pass it on. Some scholars. Yes. Did you revise on the weekend?
Yes, sir.
Then tell us. Yeah.
Sir, I did not recognize.
You did not?
Recognize now.
All right, pass it on. Yes?
Robert Park,
Yes.
William Thomas,
Very good.
and William
Very good. Very good. Pass it on. Tell us more about the development of sociology in US. Sorry, just tap on the mic so that it works. Yes. There was? Okay, that was the name of a book, Dynamic Sociology, authored by who? Pass it on, pass on the mic. Yes, tap on the mic and speak, please.
Dubis.
No, not Dubois. Not him. He did not author Dynamic Sociology. Pass on the mic. Who started the first course named Sociology in USA? बता दो सब. खुल्लम खुल्ला cheating. Yes? Tap on the mic. Yes.
More.
More.
Small.
Small. No, not small. Not small. Not small. Pass it on. Correct him.
W.G. Sumner.
Very good. Very good. And what was his perspective?
Government should not inspect.
Absolutely correct. Very good. Pass it on. Who challenged Sumner's view? Tap it on the head. Lester Frank Ward. Absolutely. Thank you. Pass it on. What is telesis? Tap.
Hello.
Yes.
The government should read.
Yes. Absolutely. Pass it on. Tell us about some intellectual influences on early sociology.
Some intellectual influences in early sociology, like number one, the historical influence.
Yes.
Should I explain those first?
No, don't explain, just list out.
Historical, biological,
Don't talk. Yes.
social survey, and perfectibility,
Yes.
and
Good.
counter
Yes.
enlightenment.
Good. Name some counter-enlightenment scholars. Nope. Durkheim was a product of enlightenment. Very much.
Dave Bonald, Dave Merritt.
चलेगा.
Ives.
ठीक है. Good. Fine. Pass it on. What else will you like to tell us? Who coined the term sociology? Letter. Yes? Comte. What was the name of his book? Pass it on. Name of Comte's book. Na? Okay, pass it on. Prepare better. Name of Comte's book.
Not able to recall. Another book.
Pass it on.
And the course in positive philosophy.
Very good. A course in positive philosophy. Pass it on. What is social Darwinism? Say. Tap and say. What is social Darwinism? Pass it on. What is social Darwinism? Guys, please be better prepared for your own sake. Yeah? Things otherwise keep getting piled up, and it only makes your task that much more difficult, not easier. Pass it on. What is social Darwinism? Where is the mic? Own it up. What is social Darwinism? Boliye. Yes? Pass it on. What is social Darwinism? Tap and speak. Minimal government intervention, all right. Something more? Which scholar is associated primarily with social Darwinist approach? Herbert Spencer. Sumner was influenced by Spencer. ठीक है, चलिए, we have proceeded a bit on this issue. Again, pass it on. What were the three defining characteristics of Renaissance which also got reflected in early sociology?
Humanism.
Yes.
Nationalism. Realism.
Yes.
Imperialism.
All that is due to prompting, na? Chaliye. First one was original. Yours. Chaliye, pass it on. How did the Enlightenment contribute to the emergence of sociology? You should have written this question yesterday.
Yes, sir.
How did the Enlightenment contribute to the emergence of sociology? Scientific? Okay. More? It's not a MCQ. It's a 150 words, 10 marker. Pass it on.
Sir, in this, according to Immanuel, people are free to think, to use their own intelligence.
According to?
Immanuel Kant.
Immanuel Kant, yes.
So, people are not blindly following the things as opposed by monarchy. So, due to their thinking, emergence happens.
All right, or they came out with the Enlightenment era intellectuals came out with radical philosophies which challenged the prevailing arrangements in society. And these created a basis for the two revolutions in Europe, which led to such massive large-scale transformations that to study them, the discipline was established. Right? Also, when you're talking about Enlightenment, you can mention all the intellectual influences that we had discussed: rationality, scientific approach, counter-Enlightenment concern for stability, order, and the like. Chaliye. Any other thing? Pass it on. What is a membership group?
Membership group is something which are who are a member of any society or.
It is a group of which an individual is a member of, simply.
Sorry?
It is a group of which an individual is a member of. Okay, to which an individual belongs. That is his membership group. A group to which the individual doesn't belong. That's called what? You tell me. वेरी गुड, ठीक है. चलिए, so with that we move, नहीं, before we move ahead, any online students, any doubts? First, this thing, online students, any doubts? Please ask. Offline students? Yes, please ask your doubts. Any doubts? We will discuss these later. We will be talking about, the question is regarding the words inductive and deductive approach in the criticism of positivism. The anti-positivist thought that we have discussed till now is only one Weber's viewpoint. There is a whole set of theories and scholars who are anti-positivists, including fancy, difficult sounding terms like phenomenology, ethnomethodology, symbolic interactionism, all of which we'll be doing later. Okay, and something called post-positivism. All these much later we'll do, then we will be able to appreciate the answer to that question, so we'll leave it for now. Yes? Is anti-positivism science? What one can argue is the anti-positivist camp is very large, comprising of different scholars and methodologies, out of which some exhibit some characteristics of science. Okay? Particularly Weber, his methodology is partly, one can say, scientific. But other scholars, phenomenologists, ethnomethodology, they drift farther away from science. Yes? So her question is regarding answer writing. There is a feeling that I might leave out something. How do you basically write in a concise form? You know so much and you have to summarize it within 150 words. We will take that up in a separate detailed lecture on answer writing, possibly this week itself. Okay, before your next assignment, that is on my agenda. But we hold it for now. Yeah? But we'll discuss how do we summarize, or how do we ensure that we have everything, we don't miss out on any of the important things. And we also adhere to the word limit. That's a very important item on our agenda. We'll discuss that in answer writing. Yes?
Sir, which approach are followed by the Karl Marxist, positivist or non-positivist?
Okay. The question is, Marx's approach is which, positivist or anti-positivist? What is your guess? Correct. Marx claims to be using the scientific method. Okay? So Marxism is based on the positivist approach. In which sense?
Like we say, class divides. It's like one concept yesterday.
कोई बात. Yes. Any other thing?
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, we have studied about Durkheim study of suicide. Like, it's a prediction, or like you have told earlier that earlier.
It's a law. Okay, meaning a generalization based on which predictions can be made. Durkheim's statement is a kind of a law or a generalization based on which predictions can be made.
But earlier you have told earlier sociologists use descriptive nature, not the predictive nature.
Yes. At the same time, I may have mentioned to you that Comte defined the purpose of sociology is to know, to predict, to control. So there was that dual tendency. Yes. We will come to that at a later stage. The question is on normative science, positive science. As per Bierstedt, we'll discuss that possibly at a later stage, when we have a more varied understanding of the other non-positivist methodologies. So please hold it till then. if I understand the question correctly, the question is that since every human being is unique, and that is something which is being described as the beauty of the diversity in humanity, we cannot have any standardized units of measurement. Is that what is being suggested? So why are you terming it as a shortcoming? You simply cannot have. See, diversity you see in the natural world as well. The diversity of life forms or whatever. Yet the physical sciences, they do tend to quantify phenomena like heat, length, time. Likewise, we as a discipline should have attempted to, and had we attempted sincerely, we would have progressed somewhat in that direction to quantify the phenomena that we measure. Okay, so yes, you are right, there is diversity. How do you capture that diversity? That is the question. And in an objective manner, rather than a subjective assessment. So people's levels of religiosity may vary. And that is what you term as the beauty of the, of humanity, which is all right. But why don't we have any sound mechanism to capture it in quantitative terms? That is what is preventing our development as a science. That is what we are trying to say. Yes? Taking the question is that on the one hand we say that you can't have universal laws in sociology. On the other hand, one can possibly argue that social change is inevitable. Okay, or it is like universal. That is a universal kind of a law. I would take that argument further. In fact, there have been numerous sociologists who have given laws of social evolution, whether it is a Comte or a Marx. They gave these according to them were universal laws, or Herbert Spencer. In fact, Spencer went to the extent of saying all that exists. He gave a universal law of social evolution which he says is applicable to all that exists. Whether it is biological life forms or human societies or celestial bodies. So there are attempts at universal generalizations. Certain segment of the scholars, particularly the early evolutionary sociologists, did strongly believe those to have a universal application. Nevertheless, when you look at the sheer diversity of cultures, it is difficult to argue that there are anything that all societies will go through the same pattern or direction. Okay, so Marx also gave a very famous kind of a schema of how societies pass through different stages. But then, an India would be found not fitting into that schema. We have had our own historical trajectory. So different countries would have their own peculiar circumstances and different trajectories that they would take. That is the thing. So such universal evolutionary models, they are kind of subjected to strong criticism. And they are considered as being kind of, for instance, Eurocentric, based largely on the European experience to which these evolutionary scholars themselves belonged. Yes? I didn't hear you clearly. Are facts sacrosanct to a which experiment? To experimentation. One could argue yes.
But if the sociologists are different, then the method of experimentation will be different. Then the outcomes may be different.
We will be discussing this today, but when we talk about objectivity, the idea is that if different people, different researchers from different backgrounds, they are studying the same thing using the same methods, they should be arriving at the same conclusions. If that is the case, we say it is an objective, it is characterized by objectivity. And we'll be talking about this today, whether that happens or not. And I think with that, and with your permission, we proceed.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, please raise your hand.
Here.
Yes.
we come across social roles also, like
Social?
social roles.
Roles.
Social roles of men and women in the society. So we come across with the question of patriarchy also. Like patriarchy, the definition of patriarchy is different from different perspective. Like feminist perspective, it may be different, and from capitalist and from Indians and Western perspective, it may be different. Then how can we say that sociology is based on social facts?
See, Durkheim does sincerely contend that, we do study facts. In fact, he goes a step further and he says we treat facts, social facts, as things, literally like objects, in a very similar fashion to as the physicist would treat his subject matter. What he means when he says that we consider the subject matter of sociology to be social facts is that they are not in the hands of the individual. They are not decided by the individuals. His enemy is, in his sociological imagination, it is the individual, not the cultural differences. So you may very well have different definitions or aspects of patriarchy in different cultures. But that is not against what Durkheim says. So he will argue that social facts in Indian society are different from those in American society. So women, in other words, are differently subordinated to men in different cultures, which is perfectly all right. They are nevertheless social facts because they impose themselves on the individual. In other words, Indian women are subjected to the Indian form of patriarchy, American women are subjected to the American form of patriarchy, and Arabian women are subjected to the Arabian form. So these are different social facts in different social settings. Chaliye, yeah? With that, we move ahead on the question of objectivity. Give me a moment, please, to start the slide. How do I start it? Like using this pen? Can somebody? Like, I want that F5 thing, so that the slideshow starts. How do I do that? Can anybody help me? It should not be so difficult. One second. One second. ठीक है? Now there are different viewpoints or perspectives on the question of objectivity. Which school or which group of scholars considers that objectivity is very much a feature of sociological research? The positivists, right? So according to the positivists, sociology should be, can be, it is an objective science. Please write down, okay, from where we had left off. Objectivity means that the researcher adopts a detached and unemotional attitude towards the subject matter of his research. The researcher does not allow his own opinions prejudices or biases to color the research project. The researcher does not allow his own prejudices, biases, or preferences or opinions to color the research project. Thus, objectivity or value-free sociology means that the research is free of the value preferences. The research is free of the value preferences of the researcher. So one viewpoint we have on this question of objectivity is the positivist perspective, right? So out of the different viewpoints, the first we discuss is positivist, including some of the founding fathers like Comte, Durkheim. So according to positivists, friends, sociological research, according to positivists, sociological research can be and should be value free. Full stop. Objectivity can be ensured in sociology by using the which method? Scientific method. By using the scientific method, comma, relying upon empirical data. Relying upon empirical data, comma, use of statistical tools in analysis. Use of statistical tools in analysis and verification of the research findings by who? Who will verify? I am to making the claim, na? Other scientists, peers. Verification of the research findings by other scientists. Also appreciate, friends, nowadays, you tell me, what is the impact of the technological progress that we have made on objectivity? In other words, now we have very highly complex and advanced computer technology, social networks, algorithms, yes or no, to process data. All these tend to enhance objectivity or reduce it? Enhance. Why? Simply because you are doing away with the human element in the data processing. Whenever there is a human element, there is a greater chance of bias creeping in or error creeping in. Once you are doing it through machinery and algorithms or through a non-human interface, that much greater objectivity is possible. Are you with me? To likho. Nowadays, using a nowadays objectivity can be enhanced. Objectivity can be enhanced by using non-human interface like computers and algorithms for data processing. Full stop. Durkheim wrote that the sociologist or the researcher should treat social facts as things. The researcher should treat social facts as things. What does it mean? Social facts is what Durkheim considers to be the subject matter. How he defines them we'll discuss later on. But he basically says that the subject matter of sociology is social facts. Basically different social things, roughly, like family and religion, all these are social facts. And he says we should treat them like things, meaning we should have the same orientation towards our subject matter as does the physicist towards his. So one's personal opinions, prejudices, they have to be kept aside during the conduct of the research. So if I am a married man with a happy or sad experience of marriage, should I let that affect my research? Then what will guide my research if not my personal experience? Data, absolutely. So as a sociologist or as a researcher, you let the data speak. That is the ethos of science. You don't impose your experiences, prejudices, opinions, biases on your research. Keep yourself very cold and detached from your research. If another person were to replace you, you are replaceable. The data is sacrosanct. Right? So likho. According to positivists, the researcher must remain committed. The researcher must remain committed to the ethos of science, to the ethos, E-T-H-O-S, of science, and keep his own prejudices and preferences aside. While conducting research. Have you written that statement that according to Durkheim, or Durkheim suggests that treat social facts as things? Huh? That is the essence of the positivist approach to the subject matter, what we are studying. All right? Very detached, cold, unemotional. From a distance you are treating it just like any other object. Right? And you capture it empirically. How you do that and all we will discuss when we discuss Durkheim's methodology in some greater detail. Okay? Are you convinced? These guys are saying, how does it matter you are a happy man, married man or a sad married man? You're a man or a woman or a transgender for that matter. Who the researcher is simply immaterial. Because data is data. Okay? So data reigns basically. Data is supreme. Data is sacrosanct. So if you let the data speak, if you don't impose your own experiences and viewpoints on the research data, then who you are is simply taken out of the equation. No, why would you say that? No, that would be a very extreme kind of a statement. In fact, even a positivist like Durkheim, he was writing about some of the social ills of his day. His only contention was that one's own attitude has to be detached. If you get emotionally involved, then you are unable to carry out an objective assessment of the issue at hand, whatever you are discussing. Once you analyze things from a distance, you get the advantage of, greater objectivity. And that is the hallmark of the scientific approach. Otherwise, your own preconceived notions will color your research. And that research will be that much poorer because of that. It will be less useful, less objective, less true, because it is colored by your preconceived notions, your meaning the researchers. A very starkly different viewpoint or stance is taken by who? The non-positivists. Non-positivists like Sri Derek Phillips. Yes. Absolutely correct. This is exactly what this guy will also say. He said data itself can be selective. It can be partial. After all, who is collecting the data? Who is choosing some data source? It is some human being. The non-positivist perspective is quite opposite to of course, the positivist perspective. They argue that it is impossible for sociological research to be objective. Impossible. Because after all, it is one human being analyzing other human beings and human relationships and human institutions. Please appreciate, friends. A researcher clearly has some preconceived notions and value preferences about his own subject matter, whatever I am studying. A researcher is who? He is a grown-up man or woman who is a member of the society which is being analyzed. As a grown-up person, he has also developed a fixed mindset about various things. So, who the researcher is bound to somewhere or the other creep into his research. Who he is. You cannot simply and artificially, separate the two. See, a researcher has clearly some value preferences. He is not a blank slate. A 2-year-old toddler does not conduct sociological research. You would be 25, 30, 50-year-old man or woman conducting research, by which time you would have some preconceived notions, good or bad experiences, preferences, political preferences, religious notions, even if you are an atheist, something or the other. You already have some values and biases. So you cannot artificially keep those aside. You are one and the same person. You cannot suddenly become a robot while conducting research, who is completely detached, value-free, and has no preferences and biases. You clearly do. And you would maintain them, even if you don't want to. So, Derek Phillips, for instance, argues that the researcher's background and value preferences, they affect the research project at each and every stage. Lagbhag, Each and every stage. लिखो ना. Phillips contends that, Phillips writes that the values of the researcher the values and social background of the researcher impact the research at various stages. Various stages. Dash. From the choice of the topic of the research to how the key terms are defined. Which data sources are chosen? Which data is considered important and which is sidestepped or ignored? Which data sources are chosen, which data is considered as important and which is ignored, how the data is interpreted, and finally the conclusions which are arrived at. At each and every stage, friends, who the researcher is, what he thinks, what his values are bound to affect the research. Non-positivists argue. Let me give you an example. The discipline of sociology, from its very beginning, mid-19th century onwards, it was very interested in the study of which arena? Work. After all, it was economic changes, the Industrial Revolution, which had kind of prompted the establishment of the discipline to a good extent. So, sociology from its very beginning was, a lot of research was conducted in the arena of work. But till about 100 years or roughly 1950s, one area of work was almost entirely ignored by successive generations of sociologists, including the founding fathers. Which area of work? The work, the enormous amounts of work which was being done inside the households. By who? By the women folk. Please appreciate. So how work was defined by the, till about 1950 as paid employment outside the home. Are you with me? So what women were doing inside homes, that was not even defined as work. That was not considered worthy of being studied. That was not simply considered socially productive or important. Why? Because who were these early guys? They were the founding fathers. The discipline was largely male dominated. Largely, by and large. Including the high priest of equality, Karl Marx. He in his writings also ignored, and he was all for workers' rights and long hours that they work and whatnot, highlighting their plight. But couldn't spare one page literally in his voluminous writings to describe the ordeal of women in the modern industrial society. They were literally a footnote in his voluminous writings. So with a patriarchal mindset, whether a Comte or a Durkheim or a Marx, till about 1950s, till about the rise of feminist sociology in USA, women, or the enormous amounts of work that they were doing, expending energy, doing productive labor, झाड़ू, पोंछा, कटका, बर्तन, खाना बनाना, बच्चे पालना, all of this requires energy. Please appreciate. Cleaning and doing the laundry and cooking and raising children, all of it requires enormous amounts of energy being spent. Highlighted who? Feminist sociologists, beginning 1950s. So who you are greatly affects what you consider as important or worth studying. How you define the key terms, like in this case, work. So the data that the early sociologists took was from the industry regarding wages and work hours, and women were completely out of the picture. Are you with me? Data choice sources can be multiple. You don't have a single data source. And the same data or the same data set can be manipulated in such a way to support seemingly very contradictory arguments. Forget sociology, I'll give you an example from our current goings on. If you watch these very venomous kind of TV debates, what is the state of the Indian economy? Are we doing well, or are we very unwell when it comes to our economy? You will hear both sides of the debate backed by statistics. So the BJP walas will tell you how awesome we are doing and how we've kind of just about managed to skirt the impact of the pandemic despite other economies being so severely backed by data. And then on the other hand, on the same channel, you have the opposition parties lamenting how pathetically the economy is doing compared to, say, 10 years or Manmohan Singh era and blah, blah, blah. What is the truth? So you have multiple data sets from which one can choose. There can be different interpretations of the same data. Yes or no? So it depends on one's viewpoint, one's preference, one's prejudices, one's biases, how data is interpreted. One can be selective when it comes to choosing data, highlighting data, conveniently ignoring data which doesn't suit one narrative or viewpoint. Yes or no? Karl Marx and Durkheim both were analyzing the same European society after the French and Industrial Revolutions. One, Durkheim saw cooperation, harmony and integration and solidarity in society. The other, analyzing the very same society, saw conflict, oppression and exploitation as the defining feature of society. And both, interestingly, claim to be scientific and objective. Durkheim's writings were characterized by a conservative status quoist bias, trying to preserve things as they are, justifying them, seeing them as rosy and happy. Marx's writings, on the other hand, they had a bias in favor of the working class. His heart literally ached for them, and he wanted very transformative changes in society for the creation of an egalitarian, a better, equal world. So point is, friends, that when one human being studies human institutions, human groupings, human relationships. One's own prejudices, biases, preferences, inclinations are bound to come into the picture. So objectivity is impossible in sociological research. Thank you. Whom do you agree with more? The non-positivist perspective sounds more correct. It typically happens that the later explained concept sounds more, truer than the previously explained one. Partly because the later one, kind of typically begins by criticizing or contradicting the previous one. So we don't have a rebuttal from the previous side. Okay. Let's go a step further. Alvin Goldner, in his book Anti-Minotaur, The Myth of Value-Free Sociology. Anti-Minotaur, The Myth of Value-Free Sociology. That's the title of the book. The name of Alvin Goldner's book is Anti-Minotaur, The Myth of Value-Free Sociology. Don't worry about the word Minotaur. It is a character in Greek mythology. So that is just for effect, okay, in the title of the book. We don't need to get to know Minotaur, okay, or anything. What Goldner basically argues, friends, he says that in sociological research, facts and values cannot be completely separated from each other. Facts and values cannot be completely separated from each other. Hello? In other words, friends, what is he saying? That facts, are they sacrosanct? Facts can be interpreted differently based on one's values. Right? So facts are not, those truths for all times to come. What the facts are depends on the interpretation. And who does the interpretation? Human beings. Human beings who are value laden. They have values. Right? So facts do not exist independent of values. They are always subjected to an interpretation by human beings who have values. So same facts can be interpreted in different ways depending on the values of the interpreter or the researcher. Goldner suggests that the researcher cannot escape their own biases and values, no matter how hard they try. No matter how hard they try. He goes a step further and he says, since obviously the researchers have values, it is better to be open and honest about them rather than denying that your values affect your research. They obviously do. It is preferable if you own up your values. Are you with me? Instead of literally being deceptive, lying to your readers or audience that I am doing value-free sociology, which you can never do. It is preferable if you openly own up your values and be honest about them. You can't ever completely do away with them. They are bound to affect your research. So rather than claiming that your values do not affect your research, you share your value biases with the audience, with the readers, with other scientists. For example, if I am researching a caste atrocity, then I should forthrightly, openly declare that I come from so and so caste. And during my childhood years, I was taught this or that about these different caste groups. Or this is how I have seen other castes being treated, or how we have been treated by other castes while growing up. And this may have affected my thinking. So the reader, you guys can discount for my caste bias. That will make it perhaps, more or better objective in that sense. If you are aware of my way of thinking, my prejudices, rather than me hiding them, saying, no, I am completely detached and clinical and objective, as if I am caste free, when I am verily a creature of caste. Are you with me? Or if I am, say, researching a Hindu-Muslim riot, and am myself a practicing devout Hindu, so that should be made clear, rather than being hidden under a deceptive garb or cloak of objectivity. I should openly say, Bhaiya, I am a practicing Hindu and this is what my socialization has taught me about, say, the Muslims. This is my voting preference. This is my stance on the Gyanvapi issue or the Babri Masjid issue, and so on and so forth. I also consider the cow sacred. Are you with me? Like many Hindus. So you own up your values. You be honest about your values rather than denying them, rather than literally being deceptive. Says who? Sri Alvin Goldner. Let me just complete and then we'll open up. Does this guy appeal to you? No? Why not? Sorry? Louder. Now, honestly, I'm not going to grill you or take you to task for not agreeing with him, but I just want to understand. Do you think like what he is saying makes sense broadly? He's saying you are, after all, human beings who have value preferences, so might as well be honest about it, no? Rather than denying your own value preferences, your own background.
What's the point of being honest about it? I mean, if I did my research and I will tell some Muslim that this is what I did, this is what my research says, you will not going to believe.
No, it's not about not believing you. In fact, I'll believe you more because I know you better. I know your religious preference, your political inclination, your ideological commitment. So I can discount your research for any prejudices that may creep in. Because you have told me. You are simply being more honest in your research, bluntly put. The idea is not to base your research on a false claim to objectivity. When you can't be. That's what he's saying. You are human beings after all. You have value preferences after all. So please reveal them. That might even enhance your credibility. Because you are owning up your own background. You are owning up. Instead of hiding it. Your readers may be still able to discern your prejudices in your writings. Here you are being forthcoming about it.
Sir, someone is telling wrong about that, then there will be some changes.
Sorry?
Like if someone is saying wrong about that thing, like if I'm something else and I'm telling something else.
Then you definitely lose credibility. You should not be lying. Yeah, that's a given. Chaliye. Let me just move ahead and then we'll take it up further. Okay? Hold on your horses for a bit. For a bit. Maybe why I'm asking you to hold is because your line of thinking may get reflected in some of the other viewpoints that we discuss. That frequently happens in this subject. The next guy we discuss is Sri Weber. Hear me out. Then I will dictate also. What Weber says, friends. I will dictate, Promise. What Weber says, friends, that he takes kind of a middle approach between these two extremes. He says that during research, the first important step, which is the selection of the topic of the research, that is bound to be affected by the values of the researcher, the background of the researcher. I repeat, Weber considers that the research topic which is selected necessarily depends on the background and preferences of the researcher. Why? Because simply, friends, there are way too many phenomena that are taking place in society. Any number of phenomena are taking place. Hundreds and thousands of phenomena. Out of which the researcher will select 1, 2, 3 topics for research. That is, it is not humanly possible for a person, for a researcher to study all the phenomena. But you have a very large number of phenomena to choose from. Yes or no? What topic should one choose? Please choose some topic. You are the researcher. Any topic. Any.
It can be Manrega, how it works.
Okay, how Manrega works, yeah? Yes. Poverty. Suicide. Unemployment. Employment. The impact of COVID. Women's issues, very broad, but poverty alleviation, inflation, education. And we have only touched the tip of the iceberg, proverbial. There are any number of things that are taking place. You can study Sanskritization or modernization, globalization, ya urbanization, cultural change, ya changes in structure, the decline of the caste system. Kya karu? The decline of the caste system to drug abuse, to sexual harassment, to the gender pay gap, to the decline of religion in society, to Dalit mobilization. There are simply an innumerable number of social phenomena one can really study from. Which one you choose depends on what? Who you are, what your interests are, what your preferences are, or simply which topics you consider worth studying. You will study in your lifetime 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 max topics because that is your human limitation you have. And which topics you pick up from these innumerable phenomena is your preference, where your background, your interests and your values necessarily come into play. So it's impossible to remove values completely from the research project, particularly at the first stage of selecting the topic. Your researchers' values and backgrounds necessarily have an effect. But once the research topic has been chosen, the researcher should attempt that his values, biases, preconceived notions do not impact the research. In the subsequent stages, he should try to detach himself from the subject matter. So the topic selection is what he calls value relevant. The researcher's values are relevant at the stage of the selection of the topic. Please write down. Weber considers that the selection of the topic of research is affected by the values of the researcher. Selection of the topic of research is affected by the values of the researcher. Full stop. Out of the innumerable social phenomena, which one he chooses to study? Which one he chooses to study is guided by his interest, values, and inclination. Interest, values, and inclination. So, the choice of the research problem or research topic, is always value relevant. Value relevant. Clear? Next para. However, once the research topic has been selected, I repeat, however, once the research topic has been decided, the researcher must attempt to ensure that the subsequent research process is not contaminated by his values. Full stop. The researcher must maintain value neutrality. Must maintain value neutrality. i.e., he must remain unbiased and impartial. How do you do that? How do you ensure that your biases do not affect the research after the selection of the topic? The selection of the topic is bound to be affected by your values. But once that is done, how do you ensure that the subsequent research project is free from your biases to the extent possible? Firstly, no, I'm not asking, I'm telling. Firstly, you be honest in terms of the data presentation. Simply put, friends, do not conveniently ignore data which contradicts your own thinking or findings or your preconceived notions. You know what we can term as uncomfortable data. Are you with me? So likho. Weber suggests that to enhance objectivity or enhance value neutrality, the researcher should be conscious of their own values. So firstly, I should be aware that these are the biases I may have. The researcher should be aware or conscious of their own values. Also, he should disclose the research findings. He should disclose the research findings without distorting or omitting data which contradicts his own views. Value neutrality, according to Weber, is the responsibility of the sociologist to identify and acknowledge to identify and acknowledge their own values, and overcome their biases while conducting research. He makes an interesting point, friends. He says that value neutrality, is like a mirage. You understand mirage? In the desert, right? The desert traveler sees a oasis, oasis of water or water body, which seems that he is approaching it, getting nearer, but it always remains kind of elusive. Okay, he keeps on pursuing it, but he doesn't reach there, right? So value neutrality is like that mirage. Weber suggests that the researcher should continuously pursue it. He should continuously strive to enhance value neutrality during research, knowing fully well that it can never be fully obtained. One can never be 100% neutral, yet one should strive for it. So being a human being, your biases are quite likely to come into play, but you need to be very conscious as a researcher of your own biases and strive very hard to keep them aside once the topic has been selected. The researcher must pursue and attempt to maintain value neutrality. The researcher must pursue value neutrality even though it can never be fully attained. It can never be fully attained. How do you like this guy? Does he appeal to your judgment and your sense of logic? Yeah. Weber is like that, he mostly is he sounds a very reasonable kind of a guy. Not a very extreme fellow, by and large. Sorry? Sorry? I heard that. Then what did you last say in the end? So you will need a clear methodology, like how you are collecting data. Is it based on visible signs, or is it based on the evidence of the statements of the purported victims? And you should be quantifying that possibly. That this much weightage I give to physically visible signs, this much to the statement of the women, this much to, say, the claims made by neighbors, etc., and like that. So say your research guide gave you a topic. That typically happens. Actual research, if you're doing your PhD or something, your research guide would give you that topic. But some human element is there, no? Why did he choose that topic from amongst many? And then again, you will be conducting the research, so you would have to have some sort of familiarity with that topic, presumably, or some sort of prior knowledge, and if you have prior knowledge, possibly also prior judgment about that topic. Chaliye, one more viewpoint. Oh, sorry. critical sociologists like Lee Harvey and Phil Carspican. Which of the two do we like? Already it is Lee Harvey. Why? Because it is easier to pronounce and remember. It's a very, very legitimate kind of a criteria. Okay. You can also try to remember using, some imagery, pictorial. So you can imagine a peck on the cheek in a car. Okay. Car specking. Huh? Or a guy in specs, wearing specs in the car. Yeah. Or a speck of dust on the car sill. Whatever works for you. Okay. Or a car filled with specks. Anyways. I'm just giving you an idea, People do that. But it should not boomerang on you. So, anyways. Point is, friends, critical sociologists argue what? See, till now, the question we were discussing was whether sociology can be or cannot be free of the values of the researcher. On the one extreme, you have positivists like a Comte or a Durkheim who says that it is as objective a science as physics or chemistry. It is completely empirical data based, so the values of the researcher have no role to play. On the other hand, you have people like who? Tell the name. No, the guy before Weber and before him. Before Goldner. Derek Phillips. Who argues what? That it is impossible to be objective. Human being analyzing other human institutions. His values will, and then Weber takes a middle road, who says topic selection is definitely value relevant, but subsequent research, we should strive to keep our values aside. These guys are on a trip of their own. In the sense, they contend that sociological research should not be objective. Researchers should have a value commitment. They should have value preferences. Not that they can or cannot. That is not the question. They say we should be committed. We should have value commitments. Does it not sound bizarre? In favor of who? Sociology as a discipline, researchers as a community should have a bias in favor of who? The weaker sections of the society, the disprivileged lot. Even then, and which kind of sociologists would talk like this? Give examples? No, Marxists don't, because Marxists claim to be objective. They claim to use the scientific method. People like Du Bois. Black sociologists. Who else? Feminist sociologists. In the Indian context, Dalit activist scholars. They argue that we should have a value commitment in favor of the marginalized and the dispossessed sections of the society. But tell me, friends, is it justifiable? Even if you are speaking for the disprivileged, are they clearly suggesting that we should be biased in our research? Our research or viewpoint should be one-sided. Even if it is, speaking for the disprivileged. How do you justify, or how do they justify, do you think? How do you justify kind of openly stating that, turn by turn? Yes. Yes, both of you are correct. Yes?
The very motive of studying sociology
Yes, absolutely correct. So these guys argue that the very existence of the discipline is justified only if we can contribute to the creation of a better society, a better tomorrow, particularly for the disprivileged sections of the society. How do you justify this one-sided view? Literally they are saying you should be very open and unabashed about it. Pure chod mein kaho, I am a feminist. And writing from the women's perspective, analyzing the institution of marriage from women's perspective. And why that is justified, please appreciate. Because the perspective of the oppressors, the dominant sections of the society, is already quite sufficiently reflected in academia, in public discourse, discussions and debates. To balance it out, one needs to also clearly, openly champion the viewpoint of the disprivileged sections of the society. Are you with me? So Dalit scholar activists, for instance, would argue that the Brahmanical viewpoint is already ingrained in Indian sociology and anthropology. The Brahmanical viewpoint is already quite well reflected in whether it is history or political science or sociology, anthropology, everywhere. So we need to correct that imbalance, for which we need to give a voice to the voiceless, the disprivileged sections. Feminists would similarly argue that the men's perspective or the patriarchal mindset already is quite sufficiently reflected in sociological writings. Now we need to address that imbalance by adding to it the women's perspective. So we should not pursue objectivity. It is not a worthy goal itself. We should abandon it, and we should have a strong value commitment towards the improvement of the lives of the disprivileged and the dispossessed. Yes or no? तो लिखो. Critical sociologists consider that sociological research should have value commitments. Should have value commitment. Full stop. Lee Harvey writes that sociological researchers should be committed to give voice to the oppressed and the voiceless. Give voice to the oppressed and the voiceless. Comma, reveal oppressive social structures and facilitate social change. And facilitate social change. Phil Carr-Specken similarly writes that sociology should be committed to changing the world. To changing the world. छोटी बात ही नहीं करते. So these are the differing viewpoints on the issue of objectivity in sociological research. How do you like these guys? Do they appeal to you? Critical researchers? In fact, do many of you have that kind of an orientation? That we should become the voice of the voiceless, give an expression to the angst of the oppressed, reveal the oppressive structures operative in our society, like caste, like patriarchy, religious bigotry, and whatnot.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yes.
like in this section, if we are taking the side of the bigger section, if we study the beggars, beggars want to be beggars. Like in that case.
So, likewise, many women want to remain housewives, docile and chui-mui and whatever patriarchy makes of them. So what happens is, yes, in any such kind of oppressive structures, people do find ways of adjustment. And frequently people become accustomed to the oppressive structures also. And they find comfort in them. So you would find many women, for instance, not only acquiescing to or submitting to patriarchy, but actually actively promoting it. Are you with me? So that happens in any kind of oppressive structure. That does not mean that the structure, or that does not take away from the argument of critical sociologists that the structure is oppressive. In fact, that is all the more reason why we need to highlight the oppressive nature of that structure, so that those who are oppressed, they also realize that they are being oppressed. So women need to be told that they are in, the stranglehold of patriarchy is preventing their full bloom, as it were. So that is that. Now we take a few minutes break, after which we recommence with a new topic. Yes, beta? Can't hear you. What do I do about it? Online friends, please confirm that you can hear me all right. Please type yes. Online friends, please confirm that you can hear me. Can you hear me? Type yes again if you can. If you could please type yes, that will be nice. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. May I have your attention, please? Accompanied by your silence. So, that was that. Now, before we proceed, a clarification that we will not be going in the sequence mentioned in the UPSC syllabus. We'll be following a different one. So, several topics which are mentioned early in the UPSC syllabus, such as sociology and common sense, sociology and other disciplines, sociological research, all of that we'll be covering later, almost towards the end of paper 1 syllabus. But they'll be done for sure. Also, while discussing anti-positivism, if you're reading from a book, you may come across certain terms like symbolic interactionism, ethnomethodology, phenomenology, etc., which you may not understand right now, and these will also be discussed at sufficient length later on. Okay? Interpretive sociology of Weber we'll be discussing later. Symbolic interactionism of Mead we'll be discussing. 2 thinkers mentioned in our syllabus. Then also ethnomethodology, phenomenology. Okay? So rest assured, all these terms and concepts will be covered, but in a different sequence than in the... It simply makes logical, better sense to discuss it in a different kind of a sequence. That is the reason. All right? And now we move on to what is undoubtedly the central part of your sociology paper 1 syllabus, which is thinkers. Yes. Yes, you have something to share. Yes, they are. Anti-positivists are a part of non-positivism. Huh? Thinkers. So, in our paper 1 syllabus, there are 6 thinkers, namely, Sri Emile Durkheim, who is a functionalist. Talcott Parsons, who is also a functionalist. Robert King Merton, who is also a functionalist. Then your beloved Karl Marx, conflict theorist. Max Weber, who is an interpretative or interpretive sociologist. Last, and in many ways the least, George Herbert Mead, whose perspective is called symbolic interactionism. If I were to comment upon the relative importance of these different scholars, I would say that 4 of them are relatively more important than 2. The relatively less important ones are G.H. Mead and Talcott Parsons. Correct. These two are relatively less important, and why I say that I will explain. A, the weightage or the number of questions expected in the exam, main criteria. You expect far more questions from a Marx or a Durkheim or a Merton or a Weber than the other two. If you do get a question from them, at best it will be one. Okay? From a Marx or a Durkheim, you can in fact expect multiple. One reason. Secondly, the number of topics. Under a Durkheim or a Marx, you would have something like four topics each, or a Weber or a Merton. But under Mead, you have one topic mentioned. Under Parsons, you have only 2 topics mentioned. Thirdly, interlinkages. Marx, Durkheim, Weber, Merton, they will be recurrent throughout the syllabus. Parsons to only some extent, and Mead is only confined to, a standalone kind of a topic. Okay? So in these various ways, 2 scholars are relatively less important than the other 4. Having said that, we don't have to leave any topic untouched or underprepared. So you will be studying all topics, including Parsons and Mead, thoroughly. Okay? That is the thing. Also appreciate that 3 of the 6 scholars in our syllabus are functionalists. They belong to the same school or same theory, functionalism. So, if we understand functionalism broadly, we will be able to understand what these 3 broadly stand for. Alright? Another thing, please appreciate that functionalism and Marxism, these 2 are kind of recurrent throughout the syllabus. So after the thinkers, we study various social institutions: family, religion, politics, economy, stratification system. In each of these, we study both these theories. So we study, say, family from the functional perspective, Marxist perspective. Religion from functional perspective, Marxist. Political system, functional and Marxist, and a few others. Okay, stratification from functional and Marxist, and so on. So if we understand these 2, overall we will be very comfortable with the rest of the whole of the paper 1. Okay? So before we begin with any of the thinkers, I will like to first give you an overview of what is functionalism, broadly. Okay? And then we can start with Durkheim. Have we discussed functionalism till now, ever, in any way? Of course we have. We have. Where? Have we heard this term function? Society is like an possessing harmony of, that captures the functional theory in essence. But to reiterate, okay, so that was one introduction to the functional theory that you had. What do you mean by the word function? The primary role, purpose, task that a social institution does. That's quite fine, right? In fact, in functional theory, we contend that society comprises of different parts or different social institutions which are performing different, I'll make you write, listen, which perform different functions. When we say they perform different functions, we mean what? That they somehow positively contribute to the maintenance and well-being of the society. They are somehow contributing to the betterment or the maintenance of the social system or the society as a whole. In very simple layman terms, they are somehow benefiting the society. The different parts of the society or the different social institutions are benefiting the society or having a positive effect on the society. In the most layman of terms, one could argue these are the various advantages, benefits that accrue to the society, that the society benefits from. The benefits the society benefits from because of these institutions. Right? This much we had already touched upon. I like to further introduce you to the functional theory. What functionalism holds? That so we've discussed the meaning of the term function briefly. Then it talks about value consensus. Value consensus means what? That amongst the members of the society, there exists a broad agreement regarding how we have to conduct our collective lives, how we have to live together. People agree upon the basics. What are values? Have we discussed that? Yes, sir. What are values? Raise your hands and speak. Governs, we can do better than that. Values are empirical, verifiable, and objective. Preferences, subjective preferences. What should be? Let him. Giving one's own opinion. Quite well articulated the strongest beliefs which are important for us. Huh? We get many other things apart from values also from socialization. Sorry. Huh? With due respect. Yes? Good and bad. A sense of good and bad. Very nicely put. What one prefers. Absolutely. That is exactly or precisely what it is. It is what one prefers. Right? So, the value of a society simply tell to its members what is important and what is not. What is worth striving for and what is not. Literally what we as a collectivity value. When you say I value you or I value an Apple iPhone or whatever, what do you mean? That I consider it worthy of my attention, my time, my whatever. Or worthy of being pursued. Similar, so those are a society's values. What it regards as worthy or important. Please appreciate. So there is a broad agreement amongst the members of a society according to functionalists regarding what we stand for. Like we discussed, an abiding value in Indian culture is what? We discussed some values, Indian values. Collectivism or specifically familism. In contrast, a value in Western society is individualism. Okay? So, there is a broad agreement amongst the members of the society regarding their collective lives. There is a value consensus and we also have shared norms. What are norms? In layman English, norms. Guidelines. Turn by turn, brother. Guidelines of the society. The unwritten rules of social life. Absolutely. That's exactly what they are. They are the unwritten rules that govern our conduct in society. What is the difference between norms and values? Please appreciate, because let us put it this way, that values are very generic, very broad and typically vague. In contrast, norms are very specific, very clear, and they are quite situational. category specific, situation specific. Values tell us what is worth striving for or what is important for us as a collectivity. Norms tell us how a particular member of the society is expected to conduct himself or herself in a specific situation. For example, there are norms governing dress, food, the way we talk. Now, norms governing dress, they are very, very person and situation specific. In the sense, you have norms governing dress for male students different from female students. So what is the norms for dress for a male student of your age and category? You are expected to wear a shirt, pant, or t-shirt, jeans, or shorts, something like that. And a female student, a salwar kameez or a skirt or the female clothing simply. Yes? Which is different for the norms governing the dress of a teacher. So I am not expected to dress up like a student wearing jeans and a casual t-shirt. If I do that, I'll be violating the norms. It will be a little jarring. So I am expected to dress age appropriate. So the norms governing the dress of a middle class male teacher are different from the norms governing dress of a young male student. Also different from the norms governing the dress of a middle-aged female teacher. Yes or no? They can be situation specific. So dress norms for a middle-aged person like me here are different from what I would be expected to wear or how I conduct myself, say, with my friends. So if I am going out with my school buddies, for example, can I be expected to, say, dress up in a tight t-shirt and jeans? Yeah, you please don't imagine me like that, but yes, one can, right? It would be reasonably acceptable. My friends won't frown upon me if I were to wear t-shirt and jeans, but my students would. Please appreciate. Because the dress norms in this classroom situation are starkly different for the dress norms compared to, say, I'm going to a disc with my school friends. I don't at this age, but in case I were to, I have neither the time nor the energy, beta. So, I'm past that age. So, the norms that your dress norms for a male student in the classroom are very different from what you would be wearing at the beach. Which is very different from what you will be wearing in a disco, which is very different from what you will be wearing in a mayyat. If you are going to somebody's death, you will be expected to wear plain clothes and, staid and not a tight body-hugging t-shirt saying I'm being human or something. So dress norms point is they are very, very specific. Are you with me? That is the whole point of all these examples. They are specific based on age, gender, situation, the role one is playing at a particular moment, everything. So norms are very specific guidelines that guide human conduct or that guide the conduct of the individual members of the society in different social situations. What else do we have norms for apart from, say, clothing? Do we have norms governing food? Yes, sir. What? Tell me. Temple. What temple? No, sir, in temple we can't eat non-veg. So you can't eat casually in, say, the temple premises, if that's what you're suggesting, which is correct. Or in a classroom environment for that matter. You can't be like having food, say, in the middle of a lecture. Any food norms will tell us which are permissible food items in our society or culture, which are not. Yes or no? So, for instance, Hindu culture might prohibit the consumption of beef because of the sacredness associated with the cow. In some cultures, ants may be eaten as food. In other cultures, they are not regarded as food. Are you with me? In Jain culture, items grown in, below the surface are considered haram, or whatever the Jain word of that is. Yeah? So point is, we have norms governing food. We have norms governing dress. We have norms governing social interaction. In the sense, the way you deal with your buddy, you will deal in a different manner with the teacher. Hopefully you won't tell me, aur bhai kya haal hai? With a slap on the back. Right? You deal differently with people your own age and those elder to you, those younger to you, the people of the opposite sex. So, for instance, one unstated rule is that you maintain a greater social distance with people who belong to the opposite gender. Yeah? So, there are norms governing each and everything. How we speak, how we conduct ourselves, the distance that we maintain, what we eat and what we don't, how we eat it, and so on and so forth. Are there norms governing marriage? Like what? What are the norms governing marriage in our society? Turn by turn, tell me any, quickly.
Like same caste.
You marry in the same caste. What else? You go for an arranged marriage. What else? Follow traditional roles. All right. What else? Marrying opposite sex. Absolutely. Quite a basic norm at that. And that norm is being challenged as we speak in the Delhi High Court. There is a petition to legalize gay marriages. Yes. So there are various such norms governing marriage. Right? In northern India, there is a rule of village exogamy as well. So you don't marry a person from the same village. Right? But you leave a village or a couple of villages, and from there you get your bride. So point is, friends, for everything, there are very specific norms. Regarding your behavior, it will be different with your sister and with your spouse. Very bizarre kind of a comparison, but or with your sister and your bhabhi. Right? So point is, friends, social norms give us clear guidelines how we have to, we meaning the individual members, conduct ourselves in different social situations. So social life is characterized by value consensus as well as shared norms. And this, according to functionalists, is necessary. It is necessary that the members of the society share the same norms and values. Why is it necessary? Because without shared norms and values, social life will simply not be possible. We are able to cooperate with each other, communicate effectively, help each other out, live in harmony because we share certain norms and values, or because we agree on the basics of our collective lives. Hello? No. Hold it for a moment. So, it is because we agree upon the basics, please appreciate, friends, that we are able to live up to the expectations of others. Otherwise, the others would expect something from us, and we will not be able to live up to those. Please appreciate. So, as a teacher, you have certain expectations from me. that this guy will be so and so in his conduct. And if I have a very different kind of, if I am not sharing the same norms and values, then I will not be meeting your expectations. Are you with me? And that will be jarring. That will prevent effective cooperation and exchange between us. For instance, you expect your teacher to walk into the classroom in formals. If tomorrow I walk in here in shorts or Bermudas, it will prevent effective cooperation, I'm quite sure. Yes? Guys, don't give me that much leeway. Okay. Point is, it will be jarring. And it will hinder cooperation. Now, how do we ensure that we all, numerous people in a society, any given society, including ours, how do we ensure that we have the same shared norms and values? How? How is it that your understanding of what a teacher should wear or what a student should wear, how he should, what distance to maintain from the opposite gender or from a teacher or so on, are the same as my understanding as her understanding and hers? Yes? Raise your hand and speak. Through the process of socialization. Socialization means what? Being taught the ways of the society. So simply, we all have been taught the same things. By who? By? Who has taught us? Who? Society? Family members, for instance. Right? So through socialization, we all have internalized the same shared norms and values of the society. Now, we've internalized. What if some smart aleck refuses to comply? He says, मैं तो अपने मन की करूंगा और करूंगी. What will happen if a member of the society does not adhere to the shared norms and values? Sorry? Instability, fine. What will happen to the fellow? He will be alienated. Okay. He will be ostracized. So let us imagine a male student who walks in here wearing female clothing. That will be a violation of the social norms governing dress. How would we react? What would happen? He will be mocked, ridiculed, possibly asked to leave the classroom. Right? Point is, friends, the society does not permit transgressions or violations of the shared norms and values. If an individual refuses to comply or submit to the dictates of the society reacts. Particularly, it punishes those individuals who do not conform to its norms and values. So if there is a cross-dressing male here, he will be mocked at, and none of us like to be ridiculed or mocked at or laughed at. Yes? That will set him straight, literally. And also, will it serve only for him? It will also serve as an example for others. So all of us, others who also have that cross-dressing potential, we will also nip it in the bud, seeing the consequences for that guy. Yes or no? तो लिखो. Functionalism. Functionalism is a theory which considers that there exists a broad consensus amongst the members of a society. There exists a broad consensus amongst the members of a society regarding their collective lives. Full stop. Every society is based on shared norms and values. Please underline shared norms and values. Before that, underline the word consensus. Continue writing. Individual members of the society are taught the shared norms and values through the process of socialization. Through the process of socialization. Underline socialization. By, same sentence, by various agencies such as the family, comma, is the family the only agency of socialization? Who else teaches us the norms and values of the society? School. The education system. What else? Peer groups. Media, very important. Increasingly important, media. What do schools teach you? As in, not literally, not sociology or history, but in terms of the norms and values of the society, what do these schools or the education system teach you? Discipline, punctuality, what else? Tolerance. Yeah, you really develop a tolerance for divergent this thing. Yes? Etiquettes, uniformity, literally imposing the uniform. Huh? Yes. What else? Yeah? Cooperative behavior, so many things. No? We learn to adjust with others, bear others, how to behave with others, so many things. What else did you write? Media, what does the media teach you? Or does it? Media is a very powerful agency of socialization, friends. It is very powerful. We imbibe a lot, consciously or subconsciously, from media. What? Sorry? Give me some concrete examples like what we learn from the media. Extremism. About our rights, yes? Yeah, what do movies teach us? Lifestyle of other countries. So dress norms we pick up from movies and all. Absolutely. Various viewpoints from the movies. Huh? News debates and all. Acha. Standards of beauty, very importantly. Standards of beauty are set by mass media. Absolutely. You have beauty pageants and beauty queens and beauty heroines. All those beauties. Setting standards of beauty. Sorry. And the like. So we imbibe a lot from media. Also, religion. Please appreciate. Who is husband? What does Indian religion tell you? Pati Parmeshwar. She has a training perfectly all right. Absolutely. Huh? So Pati is to be worshipped like Parameshwar. Huh? Okay. So basically all of these agencies of socialization, they ensure that all the members, so all the girls here agree that it is Pati Parameshwar. Huh? So that value consensus is developed through internalization of the shared norms and values by these various agencies of socialization. No gappe amongst yourselves, please. So, please continue writing. The society ensures that its members adhere or confirm. The society ensures that its members conform to the social norms and values using various mechanisms of social control. Absolutely. Please underline social control. Social control mechanisms may be positive, that is you write as i.e. by rewarding conformist behavior, or negative, that is punishing non-conformist behavior or deviant behavior. Social control, after full stop, social control may be through formal mechanisms. Such as law or administration, or through, yes, rack your brains. Which mechanisms? Formal or? Very good. Informal mechanisms. Or through informal mechanisms. Such as social boycott, ridicule, etc. Sorry? Informal. Yes, moral policing is a form of informal social control mechanism. Right? So when we say it can be positive or negative, meaning you can be rewarded for conformist behavior or punished for non-conformist behavior. So if you subscribe to all the feminine virtues or what are regarded as feminine virtues in our society or culture, how will you be rewarded? That also is a mechanism of social control. How will you be recorded? Sarva gun sampann ladki hai hamari. Yes or no? She is the epitome of all virtues, all feminine virtues. Or if you are not conformist, negative mechanisms of social control will apply. Yes or no? You will be told, कैसे लड़कों जैसे घूमती हो, शादी नहीं होगी, and so many other things. Yes or no? What else? So friends, point is that, listen to me, then I'll dictate. So there are two things happening, bluntly put. One is socialization. In other words, simply put, we all have been told and retold again and again and again. It has been drilled into our heads that this is how we should live our lives. Yes or no? As a boy, you are supposed to wear this, talk like this, do like this, and so on and so forth. As a girl, you are supposed to behave like this, sit like this. Yes or no? We've all heard, theek se baitho ladki ho. Yes or no? Huh? So this is how you're supposed to sit, talk, behave, laugh, and blah blah. And gender is only one dimension. As a student, as a teacher, as educated or uneducated. We are all taught the various things by the society, how we have to conduct ourselves. And we have internalized those expectations. So automatically, all of us try to live up to those expectations of behavior. So one is socialization. And in case somebody tries to get too individualistic, then social control mechanisms compel the individual to comply. You know, if you recall, a lot of young boys during their growing up years, toddlers, male toddlers, they have a tendency to put on a lipstick. Or, you know, wear the dupatta of the mother. You may have seen it around you. Many of you may have done it. Or have cousins who would have done it. Something like that. Right? And then what would happen? You would be reprimanded. You would be scolded. Ki kya ladkiyon jaise, why are you behaving like a girl? So that masculine trait, conforming to the norms of masculinity, those are drilled into your heads. First they are drilled into your heads, and if you don't comply, then social control mechanisms apply. It could be a fatkar, a slap. It could be mocking by your friends, and so on and so forth, which ensure that all of us are very compliant and conformist members of the society. Yes or no? To likho. The twin mechanisms of socialization and social control, the twin mechanisms of socialization and social control ensure that the individual conforms to the expectations of the society. The twin mechanisms of socialization and social control ensure that the individual conforms to the expectations of the society. Full stop. Thus, the behavior of the individual is what? Tell me. How is that behavior? Is it in my hands what I do? Is it unique? Is it individualistic? It is very predictable. It is very well structured. It is patterned. Yes or no? To likho. Therefore, the behavior of the individual is predictable and well structured. Next para. The last thing I want to reiterate is the aspect of social institutions. From a functional perspective, we'll be writing in a bit. Just hear me out for a little longer. Various social institutions, they are considered to be the various parts of the society. And these parts are performing different functions. Function meaning what? In the simplest of terms, positive effects that they are having on the society, or how they are contributing to the maintenance and well-being of the whole society. That is their function. quickly tell me what are the functions, and can there be more than one function? Yes. One institution may perform several functions. What are the functions of the family? Quickly, turn by one by one, any one function. What does the family do for the society, brother? Yes? Reproduction. Socialization. The socialization meaning the teaching the norms and values to the next generation. The socialization that the family does, we call it primary socialization. It is literally the first learning that we get. The first things we are taught are by the family. It includes things like language training. Language we are taught, k, k, g, g, apple, bat, whatever. Potty training. To control our whatever instincts and defecate only in the urinal or the pot. Basic things. Otherwise the child is like a near animal. They would defecate or whatever, urinate anywhere. Right? These are the gender norms we are taught. They are part of that primary socialization. You're a boy, you're a girl. As a boy you don't wear frock, you wear shorts or whatever. As a girl you wear this or that. How you conduct. Part of the primary socialization. So family does reproduction, primary socialization. What else? Nurturing or raising the young. Yes? Yes? Family? Not really, Who does the maintenance of law and order? Somebody does. It is the government, broadly, the state, the political system, the administration and governance system that does that, not the family. What else does the family do? Yes? Absolutely. So it ensures the channelization of the sexual energies of the individual members. What else? Morals and ethics. So part of the norms and values that are taught to the society, to the next generation. Fine. So it does a lot of such things, right? Social security kind of, looking after the elderly, the disabled, a lot of such things families would do. These are the functions of the family. What are the functions of the political and administrative system? Maintaining, okay, governance, okay, maintaining law, yes, making policies, and who implements? They also implement, making policies, implementing policies. Sorry? Interpretation. Okay, so you're like legislature, executive, judiciary. ठीक है. Social welfare increasingly, ensuring the welfare of the people, and so on and so forth. So many things. What is the function, or what are the functions of the education system, brother? Okay, making the members of the society aware of what? Of their rights, for instance. What else? Knowledge. What good is that knowledge? Rights we've covered already. What else? What does the education system do? Alright, so it equips us with the knowledge, skills required for performing our duties in the economy. Like we discussed, if we need to practice as a lawyer, we study law. Practice as a doctor, we study medicine, and so on. Yep, rights and duties. Yes. Alright, so all these things. Also it undertakes what we call secondary socialization. After the potty training, etc., by the family, you are left in the schools for further training, learning discipline, organization, cooperation, and so many other things. Yeah. What are the functions of the economy? Brother? You are not brother. What are the functions of the economy, brother? What does the economy do for the society? All right, conduct of trade and commerce. Don't use all economics terms, demand and supply. Now you're saying. Now it ensures the production and distribution of the various goods and services. Yes. Fine. What else? What does religion do, brother? Yes, pink t-shirt and specs. Yes, religion. What are the functions of religion? Think. Control. Yes, absolutely. So one of it is to ensure effective control. How does religion control us? Sorry? Various rules and regulations, prohibitions, interdictions are there in religion. It makes everything pap, which makes it very, very powerful. You know, it declares things to be sinful. So it prevents them from being undertaken by the individuals. Right? चलिए लिखिए. From a functional perspective, the society comprises of various parts. Or social institutions. Full stop. These different parts of the society perform several functions. The term function, after full stop, the term function refers to the contribution that a social institution makes to the maintenance and well-being of the society as a whole. The term function refers to the contribution that a social institution makes to the maintenance and well-being of the society as a whole, WHOLE. Full stop. Without the performance of these functions, without the performance of these functions, the society cannot exist. In other words, that these functions are undertaken, it is very essential for the very existence of society. Yes. I repeat, without the performance of these functions, the society cannot exist. Full stop. While performing these functions, while performing their functions, the various parts of the society are what? Tell me, isolated and independent? Not isolated or independent. The various parts of the society are interlinked and interdependent. They are interrelated and interdependent. I.e., that is, the different social institutions work in coordination. Work in coordination with each other. Last para. Last line. In summary, let us summarize the functional perspective. In summary, functionalism considers that social life is characterized by, or society is characterized by shared norms and values, comma, society is characterized by shared norms and values, comma, individuals conforming to the norms and values of the society, and different social institutions performing various functions in an integrated manner. Full stop. Social life is characterized by cooperation, consensus, continuity, stability, and harmony. All things nice. Don't say all things nice. Don't write that, okay? So with that, we are done for the day. Thank you. I'm here if any of you have any doubts.